The collapse of the burden of proof. It's April 30th. Welcome to yes.to-hell-with.com. Up to this point, we've examined the structure of prosecution from multiple angles. The role, the incentives, the charging process, the withholding of evidence, plea bargaining, immunity, and courtroom narrative. Today we bring it all together because all of those elements converge on one central principle: the burden of proof. Now understand this clearly. In any legitimate system, the burden of proof rests entirely upon the government. Not partially, not conditionally, entirely. The government must prove the facts, the elements of the offense, the applicability of the law, and the obligation of the accused. And it must do so beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the standard. And that standard is not arbitrary. It exists because the presumption is freedom, not guilt. Now, that is the theory. But what happens in practice? This is where the shift occurs. Not openly, not formally, but functionally. Because through the mechanisms we have already discussed, the burden begins to move subtly, quietly, but significantly. Let's look at how. When charges are stacked, the pressure is created. When evidence is withheld, the record is incomplete. When plea bargaining is introduced, proof is bypassed. When narrative dominates, perception replaces analysis. And when immunity exists, accountability is limited. Now combine all of those elements and what emerges? A system where the burden of proof is no longer consistently enforced. Now understand that the standard may still be stated. It still may be referenced. It may still be instructed to a jury, but the function has shifted. Because once a person is charged, they are often placed in a position of response. They begin defending, explaining, justifying, instead of requiring that the government fully prove its case. Now, this is the critical breakdown, because the moment an individual begins to carry that burden, even partially, the structure has been altered. And once the structure is altered, the outcome becomes predictable. Now, within the Liberty Dialogues framework, this is where discipline becomes non-negotiable. Because we do not accept a shifted burden, we restore it. We ask what has been proven, not what has been alleged. What evidence establishes each element, not what is assumed. What authority supports the action? What jurisdiction is being asserted? What status is being applied? What standing exists? And where is the clearly defined obligation? Because if those elements are not fully established, then the burden has not been met. And if the burden has not been met, then no lawful enforcement can follow. Now here is the reality. Most people are never taught this. They are taught to respond, to cooperate, to explain, to defend. But they are not taught to require proof, to insist on structure, to reject presumption. And that is why this system functions as it does. Because once the burden shifts, even slightly, the outcome begins to favor the party asserting authority. Now let's understand something. The collapse of the burden of proof is not always visible. It happens through accumulation, through pressure, through assumption, through repetition, until what should be required is no longer demanded. So what is the response? Restoration. To bring the burden back to where it belongs, on the party asserting authority. To require that each element be proven fully, clearly, lawfully. Because once that is done, the structure holds. And when the structure holds, truth has the opportunity to prevail. And as always, may truth reign supreme.